What's up everyone? Today we're breaking down everything you need to know to master Squirrel Girl in Marvel Rivals. Whether you're picking her up for the first time or looking to refine your skills, this guide is packed with useful tips, strategies, and combos to help you dominate. Squirrel Girl is an absolute menace in the right hands. She's got explosive damage, insane crowd control, and some pretty unique movement options that let her disrupt fights while staying relatively safe. She can keep enemies locked down, protect her teammates, and cause pure chaos when played right, but she also has some clear weaknesses you need to know about. Before we jump into the details, if you're looking to keep up with patch notes, learn more advanced strategies, or simply get better at Marvel Rivals, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're here to help you dominate every game. Now, let's break down her abilities and how they work. Squirrel Girl's main attack is Burst Acorn, and it's honestly one of the most fun projectiles in the game. She slings acorns that bounce around and explode on impact, dealing splash damage. Think of it like a mini grenade launcher, perfect for hitting enemies behind cover or forcing them to reposition. Instead of aiming directly at enemies, try bouncing acorns off walls or the floor near them. This makes them harder to dodge and increases your overall damage. This is where things get spicy. Squirrel Blockade is a charged acorn that releases a horde of tiny squirrel guards to trap an enemy in place. The longer you charge it, the further it goes, but even at close range, it's an instant lockdown tool, stopping aggressive heroes like Iron Fist or Black Panther mid-dash before they can dive onto your teammates. Tail Bounce is basically the panic button you didn't know you needed. If you're stuck in a bad fight, boom, straight up into the air. Or if you need to dodge an ultimate, hit Tail Bounce and laugh away. But be careful, this ability goes straight up. So if you're just bouncing in the open, you might just be making yourself an easy target for a sniper. You can actually use Tail Bounce mid-air, meaning you don't have to be on the ground to activate it. This makes it an amazing tool to escape fights or dodge ultimates. This is the ability that makes Squirrel Girl scary. Mammal Bond instantly reloads her burst acorns and lets her use one ability again without triggering a cooldown. That means back-to-back Squirrel Blockades, double tail bounces, or just non-stop acorn spam. Pair this with Squirrel Blockade for insane enemy lockdowns or use it on Tail Bounce for double jumps and crazy repositioning. Her ultimate is a stampede of squirrels that charges forward, bouncing off structures and dealing damage. This move can be absolutely devastating if used correctly, but also completely useless if misused. Always aim it toward walls or tight spaces so the squirrels bounce multiple times and hit more targets. But how about open areas? Actually not so great, they'll just run straight and disappear. If you're running Squirrel Girl and you see a Spider-Man on your team, congrats, you just got a free upgrade. Webbed Acorn is an absolute nightmare for enemies. It's like Squirrel Blockade on steroids, except now it hits multiple enemies in an area. If you're zoning a team fight, this ability turns her from annoying to straight up broken. Upon impact, whether hitting an enemy or a surface, it explodes, dealing 80 damage and briefly immobilizing enemies in a 4 meters radius for 1 second. Like every other hero, Squirrel Girl has a proficiency system that rewards you for consistently landing key plays. The best way to build her proficiency is by hitting multiple enemies with burst acorns, landing Squirrel Blockade traps, and dealing damage with Squirrel Tsunami. The higher your rank, the more points you earn per challenge, making progression faster over time. Now, let's talk about how to put it all together. Squirrel Girl is all about chaining abilities smoothly and keeping enemies locked down while dishing out serious damage. Here are some of the best combos to use. Basic Burst Combo. Fire Burst Acorns at an enemy to soften them up. Then follow up with Squirrel Blockade to trap them in place. Lastly, unload more Burst Acorns while they're stuck for massive damage. This locks enemies in place long enough for you or your teammates to finish them off. Double lockdown combo. Use Squirrel Blockade to imprison a key target. Then activate Mammal Bond and use Squirrel Blockade again immediately. This combo can completely neutralize an enemy for almost 3 seconds, long enough to delete squishy heroes. Aerial escape combo. Jump and use tail bounce to escape or reposition. Then activate Mammal Bond to immediately tail bounce again. Or you can just throw a Squirrel Blockade at your pursuer, perfect for getting out of danger while still slowing down enemies chasing you. Ultimate setup combo. Use Squirrel Blockade to stop enemies in a tight space. Next, follow up with unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami, so the squirrels hit multiple times. Lastly, finish off survivors with Burst Acorns. The Squirrel Tsunami does way more damage when enemies can't move, and this setup makes it easier to land. To make the most out of Squirrel Girl, you need to lean into these strengths while avoiding situations that expose her biggest weaknesses. How to maximize her strengths. Use her splash damage creatively. Instead of aiming directly, bounce Burst Acorns off walls and objects to pressure enemies behind cover. Double down on lockdown. Squirrel Blockade is already strong, but pairing it with Mammal Bond lets you chain stuns for nearly 3 seconds. Take advantage of tight spaces. Her Squirrel Tsunami ultimate is devastating when enemies are near walls or confined areas where it can bounce multiple times. Before the round starts, take advantage of Squirrel Girl's Burst Acorn by spamming acorns at the enemy spawn door. This farms ultimate ability charge early and forces enemies to reposition the moment the round begins. It's a great way to apply pressure right from the start while getting closer to unlocking Squirrel Tsunami sooner. How to play around Squirrel Girl's weaknesses. Be careful against burst DPS. Heroes like Spider-Man can delete Squirrel Girl quickly if they get too close. Use tail bounce early to reposition before you get caught. Think before using ultimate. Open spaces make Squirrel Tsunami useless. Try to wait for a team fight near structures before activating it. Watch your cooldowns. If you burn Mammal Bond too early, you might not have a way to escape when you really need it. While Squirrel Girl isn't a traditional burst DPS like some other heroes, her bouncing projectiles and lockdown potential make her extremely disruptive. Let's compare her kit to similar heroes. Luna Snow's Absolute Zero freezes a target for 2.7 seconds, but the effect breaks early if they take damage. In contrast, Squirrel Blockade fully traps the target in place, guaranteeing follow-up damage. Manda's Spore Slumber puts enemies to sleep for 3.5 seconds, but allies can wake them up by attacking an illusion. Squirrel Blockade is more reliable for lockdown as it doesn't break early, making it better for securing kills. Bionic Hook pulls an enemy toward Winter Soldier, disrupting their positioning. While both are single-target lockdown tools, Squirrel Blockade stuns the enemy in place, while Bionic Hook forces repositioning. Jeff's fast AoE attacks and high durability make him a nightmare matchup for Squirrel Girl. His Aqua Burst ability easily outtrades her in close combat, since it bursts on impact with a wide hitbox, making it much more reliable than her bouncing acorns. Even if Squirrel Girl tries to reposition, Aqua Burst's splash damage means she's still at risk. If Jeff flanks her or gets too close, her only real option is to use Tail Bounce to escape to higher ground. Otherwise, she get wiped out fast. If you use her correctly, she can be an absolute menace, locking down enemies, controlling fights, and making life miserable for the enemy team. If you found this guide helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more Marvel Rivals content, and let us know in the comments who you'd like us to cover next.